Hey guys, welcome back to CBO Wellness, Chill Vibes Only. My name is Allie, and today we are going to be talking about how to save more money. Recently, I've been doing a lot of videos on here about financial wellness. I talked about investing, I talked about the different investing accounts, how to actually start investing for someone who's starting out brand new. But in order to invest money, you have to have money saved to put into the stock market. So I wanted to go over today how I save money and actual practical examples that you can use starting today in your day-to-day life to save more money so that you have more money to invest and grow. I think there are tons of ways to save money, but these are the ways that really worked well for me. I'm not someone who subscribes to the penny pinching methods. I don't think that you should have to completely downgrade your life or worry about every single dollar that you spend, but I do think there are some really easy tips and tricks that you can use to not spend money on things that you don't need to be spending them on so that you can actually use that money to invest and grow your net worth. All right, so I'm going to be going over 5 things that I do to save money, and they're really easy. I think anybody can implement them. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about today on how to save money is learning to negotiate. And when I say negotiate, you might think negotiate your salary, which is one way that you can negotiate, and I definitely recommend that you negotiate your salary. But I also mean negotiate almost every aspect of your life. Whenever there's an opportunity to negotiate, you should be negotiating. And so what I mean by that is, for example, your tenant insurance or your car insurance or your bank rates or your rent or your cell phone bill. Anytime that you are signing a contract, no matter how big the company is, you have the ability to negotiate, and you should be negotiating. And this is one of the simplest ways I've saved tons of money for myself, is simply by just negotiating and asking for a better price. You can also do this even with trivial things. Like, I know a lot of my friends, when they go on vacation and they're shopping, they'll negotiate with different vendors for different items that they want to buy. But really, I want you to have this mindset of not just accepting the first price that's given to you because that's what you think it has to be, but asking questions and always trying to get a better rate. And it might seem small, but these things really do add up. For example, I was able to negotiate $200 off mine and my partner's rent a month. And so that's saving us over $1,000 every single year. And that was simply just because I negotiated with our landlord when we were having some construction going on outside of our building. I've also negotiated my car insurance. I've negotiated my credit card annual fees before and gotten those waived. So it might seem small, like you're saving $100 a month or $100 a year, but over time it really does add up, and you can use that money to, again, put it back into the stock market and invest it, or for other things that you actually want to spend your money on. So whenever it comes to signing any contract, I want you to ask yourself, okay, is there room to negotiate here? Can I talk to someone and see if I can get a better rate? Another good example of this is with my home insurance and my car insurance and my pet insurance. I was able to get a bundle with BCAA where I was actually paying way less on my fees. So I was saving about $150 a month just by bundling all the packages together. So it's not always about going in and thinking that you have to win or lose a negotiation. I don't want you to think about it like that, but more just asking questions and seeing hey, is there a way that you can give me a better rate here? I always kind of start with that, or I say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Are you able to meet this amount of money? Some tips with negotiation is that oftentimes if you're asking for something, you might want to ask for it in the evening, because humans make tons of decisions every single day. And if you ask someone straight away in the morning, they're way more primed to be defensive or, to really think about the decision. Whereas if you ask them in the evening, usually people are a little bit more tired. They're more likely to just say yes because they don't want to deal with the headache of having to make another choice. Always put your number that you want at the bottom of your range. So for example, if you're negotiating your salary and you want to make $100K a year minimum, you would say, oh, I'm looking for something in the range of 100 to 120K. That way, if they do meet you at the bottom, at least you're getting exactly what you wanted. And if it's anything above, then that's a bonus. Obviously, you have to bring your receipts when it comes to negotiations, saying why you think you should get that thing. For example, I was paying my Avion credit card fee, which was $120 a year, and I had been with RBC for basically my whole life banking. And I said to them, you know, I'm trying out these other credit cards. I don't really want to pay this annual fee for a card I'm not going to really use. If you can't waive the fee this year, that's fine, but I'm going to cancel the card. And so then they waived the fee for me. So kind of going in with like your backing up why you deserve to have that rate and having your receipts ready so that you can come at it from a powerful position. You don't want to just walk into a room and say, I deserve this amount of money, or I think it should be this much just because. You want to have good reasoning behind it. And then, yeah, following those tips like asking in the evening or language you can use for negotiation. I highly recommend just like looking up a couple of YouTube videos whenever you're going to go into a certain type of negotiation. There's tons of tips and tricks out there, but that's my first rule for saving money. Always negotiate, because even if it's something small, like 50 bucks a month that you're saving, it really does add up over time. Okay, so then that goes into my second tip for saving money, and that is doing your research. So we live in a wonderful time frame right now where you can honestly get any and all information that you need. And it's pretty easy to get information, especially now with AI. You can go into AI and ask them, how much should this be costing? Or what's a dupe for something like this? Or what's the average amount of cost for getting this thing fixed on my car? I've had so many times when I've gone to go get something done and I just quickly look up like, oh, can I buy this for less somewhere else? Or is there a way I can get this service done for a better price? And you can usually find online the answers of how much something could cost, call around to a couple people and get the best rate. So research is something I know sometimes it takes time and you really do want to balance, like don't put 10 hours of your time into doing research, but if you can do a quick Google search to find the best rate. Also too, with makeup products or beauty products, sometimes the ingredient list on the no-name brand is the exact same as the regular branded product. So doing your research like that to see, okay, like what am I actually buying here? Just taking a picture of each and saying like, is this the same thing? Is this a better price for the same product? You have so many tools now that will tell you exactly what you're getting and when you can splurge on the more expensive one or when the more affordable option is actually just as good. So I highly recommend like doing your research in that sense. It honestly takes like 2 minutes to just take a picture of the ingredient list or take a picture of the service or take a picture of the product and say like, hey, is there a better price out there for this? Use the tools that you have at your disposal. I used to work in an industry where I saw just how much things were marked up. And there are tons of brands out there that now make clothes, even like Quince, for example. You don't get the, the brand name of say Oak and Fort, but you get the same quality of sweater for like a fraction of the cost. So just doing your research and making sure that when you are spending money, it's on things that are actually worth that brand name. And that brings me to my next tip for saving money, and that is truly finding what brings you joy. So I do not subscribe to the people who say, oh, if you didn't buy a coffee every single day, you'd have X amount of dollars at the end of the year. If buying a coffee every single morning brings you joy and you don't mind taking the bus or having an economy flight or, walking to work versus driving, you should buy the coffee every single day. You should be spending your money on what brings you joy, not what somebody else says you should spend your money on. I see this all the time with people where you get into this like saving zone where you're saving for things that you traditionally think you need to save for, but then you don't really feel fulfilled and your money doesn't really bring you what you're actually searching for, and then you can kind of overspend in those cases as well. So really sitting down with yourself and looking at your values and what you care about and thinking about those things when it comes to your purchases. You can even write out your values and be like, okay, maybe you value spending time with your family, but they live far away, but you're going to put the money into buying flights to go see them because that's super important to you. But ordering food on Uber Eats doesn't really bring you joy. It's more of a convenience thing. So you're going to work at meal prepping more so you don't do that as much. So just really thinking about like, okay, where do I want my money to go that's going to give me the most amount of satisfaction and joy, and spending it in those areas so that you can save in the other areas and not feel like you're cutting back on your life or what you truly want to do. I used to spend a ton of money I would find on like fast fashion, and at the end of the day, like it didn't really bring me joy. I don't really need to have the newest, trendiest items. That's not something that I really get joy from, but I do get joy from seeing family and going on trips. And so I put more of my money into flights and I save more money on clothes so that I can do that. So it's about finding balance in your life and where you can kind of pull back, but not affecting your overall happiness and satisfaction. Okay, and then my fourth tip for saving money, this one is just kind of like a hard truth, but I do think it really matters, especially in this day and age, and that is to couple up when you can. And when I say couple up, I don't mean find a significant other, although that does help, But the world is made for couples, and you can see that financially. Imagine splitting a one bedroom between two people versus having you to cover the whole rent, or you go on a trip and you have to pay for the whole hotel room versus splitting it in half. When you can couple up and combine with friends or a significant other or family, it really does go a long way in terms of saving, because you only have to pay for a half or a quarter or a third of whatever that item is. Unfortunately, it's just the way things work. When you are able to split things, they become much more affordable. So if you can, try to couple up. I don't mean like you have to have a roommate, you're not in a partnership, but think about trips that you go on. Like, is there a way that you can go with a friend so that you guys can split the cost of accommodation? Or if you're thinking about buying a car, is there a way that you can split that with a friend and you guys both share it? There's lots of ways where you can, use your community around you to help share the cost of things. Even going to like Costco, if you're a single person, going to Costco with someone and just bulk buying a bunch of food and then splitting that down the middle to meal prep helps save a lot of money, because you're sharing it with another person. And you don't have to live together. You can just split it up and, you go your way and they go their way. And it will save you a lot of money in the long run. So I know it's a little bit controversial. And again, I'm not saying you need to have a significant other, but thinking about like those bigger purchases and doing what you want to do, but finding people in your community to do it with you. Okay, and then my final tip for saving more money, and this might seem a little bit random, but I think it's so true, which is, in order to save more money, you often just need to make more money. And unfortunately, no matter how much you do the beginning tips that I say, at the end of the day, if you're only making a certain amount every single year, it's going to impact how much you can save. So the biggest way to actually save money is to make more of it. And that comes from like negotiating your salary. It comes from trying to find high paying fields to work in. It comes from maybe having a side hustle, or doing a YouTube channel, or doing dog walking, or just other ways that you can bring multiple streams of revenue into your life, especially at a young age. Because once you get more of that money, then you can invest it in the stock market and have that money grow for you, so you don't need to have a bunch of side hustles. And I'm not saying that you need to have a full-time job and a side hustle. I think there are other ways that you can make more money, like I said, with negotiating or going into a higher paying field. I have tons of friends who have switched career paths because they noticed that they could make more money in specific fields, and it's worked out really well for them. And with that, not letting like lifestyle inflation creep up. So when you start making more money, it's not an excuse to spend more money. You should, obviously make sure that you, again, are spending money on things that bring you joy and align with your values and lifestyle, but not just spending an extra $1,000 a month because you're making an extra $1,000 a month. Really thinking intentionally about where you want that to go and planning accordingly, not letting that lifestyle creep kind of come up, making sure that you're sticking to your values and your budgets, because that extra money that you save, that you put in the stock market, is going to give you more freedom down the road to do other things that you want to do, such as maybe not have to work and have more free time to enjoy your life. So yeah, those are my 5 tips for how to save more money. I find that sometimes it's the simplest things that really make the biggest impact. So even if you just try out one of these things for the next month or so and see the difference it makes, I think you'll realize how much money you are able to save. And then, watch one of my other videos down below about how to invest that money and have it work for you. And that's really kind of how you start to snowball yourself into building a lot of wealth. And as I always said, like, if I could do it, you can do it. Don't feel like you're behind or that you can never start. Like, now's the perfect time to start. And even just watching this video is like the best first step. So yeah, I really empower you to try out some of these tips. Let me know if there's anything that you do to help save money in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did, and subscribe, because that really helps my channel. And I will see you for another video soon.